sure where to start. I'm going to start with the punchline first, I guess, is that despite the fact that it's widely accepted now that ivermectin does, in fact, work, and it works very well, despite that, our Food and Drug Administration is continuing to have disregard for the lives of American citizens, and our Food and Drug Administration still has not approved it for the use of COVID. So when I asked my doctor for a script of ivermectin, he had to put it in under the guise of being for a dewormer, which is not what I was getting it for, and it would not have been the same dosage. So I'll start with the punchline. I'll start with the punchline and go back. But Dr. Harvey Risch, the chief epidemiologist at Yale University, said that 250,000 American lives were lost because they were deterred from using ivermectin. That's 250,000 people. Jeff Hayes, who I interviewed on my show on joecitizenshow.com, I invite you all to watch that interview. It's a comprehensive hour-long interview. And he did not accuse anybody of anything. I'll do the accusing. What he did say was that here's one, and here's one, and 1 and 1 is, I'll let you determine what 1 and 1 adds up to. And what he explained was that there's this emergency use authorization. Let me read you the description. Oh, I wanted to, hang on. Let me read this to you of what it's defined as. The emergency use authorization is a way for the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, to quickly access and use drugs, diagnostic tests, and other medical products to help in a public health emergency. Here's the thing. The FDA can only issue an EUA when there are no adequate and approved options. In other words, the FDA would not have an EUA for their vaccines if there was another viable option, that option being ivermectin. And this was the reason that ivermectin was smeared, and the people that defended it were smeared. Even the top doctors in the world, such as Dr. Harvey Risch, was smeared. It didn't work because you can't keep the truth down. So the reason ivermectin didn't make the great hit parade is because it would have cost Big Pharma hundreds of billions of dollars with their stinking vaccine. And I was shocked to find out that it's still going on. They still have not approved it for COVID, so I had to do all this cloak and dagger crap to the goddamn drug. And this is bullshit. And their heads should roll. And you talk about cleaning out the FBI and the CIA. The FBI, the FDA should be indicted as far as I'm concerned. They should be indicted for mass murder as far as I'm concerned. 250,000 deaths, and I know some of them. And I know some people now. I know an elderly gentleman that is quite sick now. But, you know, people are reticent to contradict their doctors because, let's face it, our whole lives we were taught to believe in our doctor, and we learn to like our primary doctors, right? It's just a natural thing to do. So when this doctor told my elderly friend to go home and take Tylenol,
that's insane.
If my friend doesn't make it, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I will track down that doctor, I can guarantee you that. I will track his ass down. And this stuff has to stop. Now, look, it's very easily proven if it's not really what I'm saying. It's what Dr. Harvey Risch is saying. And you can certainly look him up. He's the most credible witness on the subject that I've ever seen. I looked him up years ago, not just recently, but years ago when I discovered that something was wrong here. You know, Charles, there's something not right here. When I sent out an email to somebody, a liberal, about hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And within like about 8 seconds, I got a reply that was about this long. You know, it wasn't a regular reply to an email. It was like some preset propaganda that the Democrats had sent around to everybody. And I got that back like in a millisecond. So I was thinking something is not right here, because if there's something that can help you get rid of COVID, well, then you don't need the vaccine. And that was my reason for not thinking a vaccine was necessary. Why take a vaccine if you can cure it? And that's exactly why they didn't want anybody to take ivermectin. That's exactly why they smeared it. They lied. They said it didn't work. They said it would harm you. It was bad for you. Those were all lies. Ivermectin has no side effects. It does not affect the heart and the this and that and the blood pressure. It was all lies. And you'd think people would be up in arms about it. And maybe they would be if they really knew. But I kind of figured people knew. I thought it was an open book now about ivermectin. And quite frankly, I didn't follow it that quickly recently, because it just really wasn't anything of urgency. And it's certainly not till now. And I'd never had it. I went to a funeral on Tuesday, and I sat next to two guys that tested positive the next day on Wednesday. And on Friday, I started to feel a little funny, and only because they tested positive for COVID, I figured I'd better give my doctor a call. And only because we have such a good relationship is the only reason he obliged me at all, because the doctors are still under the beck and call of this government that threatened them, that threatened the pharmacies, that threatened the pharmacists not to prescribe or fill or carry ivermectin for the use of COVID. But he obliged me, and I got enough for a one-day supply. I took that starting Friday night and on Saturday. And Saturday, Jiggy, I will tell you, I mentioned once before, when I discover that I'm wrong about something, I will own up to it. And there's one thing I was wrong about, and I will own up to it right now. I said, well, if you get COVID now, what's the big deal if it's just like a cold? What I had Saturday was not like a cold. It was absolute misery. I didn't know if I was going to live, quite frankly. That's how bad I felt. So I will never say that again. It's not just like getting a cold. Maybe it can be in certain instances, but this was pure misery on Saturday. Now, remember, I had that one-day supply of ivermectin, supposed to take it for 5 days. I had one-day supply, and Sunday morning, gone. Gone. And the only reason I had a service called Beeper MD, they're excellent down here in Florida. I don't know where else they have them. They come to your house. The only reason I had them come to my house and give me a test was because I felt so good that I wanted to know if I could go out and start playing ball with my teammates. But I had to know if I was still positive for COVID, because I didn't want to go out and spread it. That's the only reason I had them come out. And Avery remarked, oh, you know, I'm acting perfectly normal, and I felt perfectly normal, and I was. But guess what? I was out of the ivermectin. And that night, it came back.
Oh, no.
And the next day was hell as well. At this point, you know, when you're sick like that, it's hard to make intelligent decisions. So I tried getting a hold of my doctor. Look, it's hard to do anything with text or anything with your fingers. You're just not good with that stuff. And I figured I just could not handle wrestling with the government at this point, or forcing a doctor to do something he's not comfortable doing with, because he had mentioned that he'll put it in, but if he gets resistance, that's going to be it. And really, at the time he said that, I didn't even really realize what he was talking about. I didn't realize that he was putting it in as a dewormer, but not for COVID. So this second time around, I didn't have the strength to deal with all that, and I just said, okay, put me on the Paxlovid to tide me over until I get my ivermectin. I didn't say that, but I said, let me just have the Paxlovid. And I will say, ladies and gentlemen, the Paxlovid has performed. It has performed, or I wouldn't be sitting here on the show with you, because I was feeling very badly. Not as bad as that first day, but I was still feeling terrible. I would not be able to do this. And I'm getting the ivermectin tomorrow. And I will be taking it starting tomorrow. And there's controversy. Oh, well, finish the cycle of what you have first. No. I think I will go by the school of Dr. Harvey Risch, and I will follow their lead more than I follow the lead of the American doctors or the FDA, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a criminal enterprise. $100 billion criminal enterprise. They killed God knows how many people, including my friend John. And if this friend of mine dies because he's afraid of what he's been brainwashed and this and that, I really don't exactly know what I'm going to do, Jiggy, but I'm going to make more frickin' racket than has ever been heard.
So IQ Al Rizzoli is with us. IQ, listening to all this from Roger. What do you have?
I agree with him. I never had a cold in my life. I never had a jab for a cold in my life. The minute I had the vaccine, I bleed water from my nose on a daily basis in enormous quantities. Enormous, I'm telling you. I go to tissue paper like toilet paper. It's unbelievable. But I was never, ever ill of any kind of cold, ever. So my immunity changed. Another item changed, my taste for food. I don't enjoy food anymore. I eat less than my grandchildren, I swear to you. I watch my grandchildren being fed by my daughter. They eat enormously more than I eat. They're only 3 years old. Yeah. No, it changed a lot in my life. I'm not kidding with you.
We hear so many stories like that. And you know, Jiggy, I'm the last person in the world that would ever throw bombs around about my government.
Yeah.
I was a square child. I still am square. But I'm not going to sit around and watch this type of injustice, whether it's from Islamism or whether it's from this FDA. But it's just absolutely incredible. I never would have thought for a moment, I never would have believed for a moment that this government would sacrifice human lives over money. That's how naive and idealistic I was. And no more. And I'm at the point now where the FBI, nothing they say, as far as I'm concerned, is credible. I don't know if you saw my last show, and I tried to call them in for a see something, say something. What a joke. What a Mickey Mouse operation. They got their heads up their ass. They either don't know what the hell they're doing, or they're part of it. But to talk about copycats and lone wolves, shut the F up. There's no goddamn thing as a lone wolf if you're part of 100 million jihadists. Stop watering it down and making believe people have nothing to worry about. Oh, IQ, you hear that? The FBI told people, that all the accomplices were accounted for. Really? All the accomplices were accounted for? Oh, so jihad has been called off? There's no more jihad? What do you mean all the accomplices were accounted for? The accomplices weren't all accounted for because, like I said, we've got tens of millions of jihadists. So what are they talking about? And copycats, it's just like they're trying to set us up for the next terror attack and deflect it from being jihad. It's not jihad. It's just a copycat. The best thing the FBI can do is shut the hell up.
They are not the only ones, by the way. All over Europe is exactly the same.
Oh, I know when you would think that we would see that, but of course we don't see that because, you know, IQ, none of what's happening in Europe is on the news, like zero, zilch. Nobody knows what's happening in Europe. It's virtually in civil war, and we don't know anything about it here. They've done a tremendous job censoring that. They said they were going to arrest anybody making video posts about it and getting out. They even said that they would reach out and extradite people like me that would show the videos on it. Bring it on, UK. You know, Starmer, you son of a bitch, he needs to be replaced. He needs to go the way of Justin Trudeau. They ought to replace him with Robinson if they want to save that country.
Unfortunately, you're wrong. There is no civil war. If there was civil war, there would have been a bloodbath. Every Muslim in Europe, every Muslim in America is a waiting time bomb. Every single one of them. And some jerk will tell, but not all of them. No, you're right. Not all Muslims are terrorists, but 100% of all of acts of terror are Islamic. So tell me how it works out.
Right, and then it goes around and around with the semantics that if they don't follow Sharia law, well, they're not really considered Muslims anyway. But no, you're absolutely right. And when I said civil war, maybe that was a stretch, but there have been many skirmishes that are breaking out and have broken out. And I don't know how effective these roundups in Germany. Allegedly, they're deporting Muslims on a high scale, not Muslims. Sharia compliant
Imam, they're deporting imams.
Okay.
I'll tell you,
Mhm.
the movement in Germany, the opposition party, the AMG, if they take over, then we might have a civil war.
In Germany, and what's the odds of that happening?
Well, it's not impossible.
Mm-hmm. And what about the rest of Europe? I mean, I just can't believe what Starmer has done to England, and I feel so bad for the British people.
They deserve it.
Well, I was going to say, not that they really deserve a lot of pity for some things in the past, but look, as an American, I still feel an affiliation with the British people. Okay, I'm not a citizen of England.
We're not discussing the past. They are complacent.
Yes.
They are complicit in electing these bastards. That's what
Well,
I mean.
so you could say the same about the politicians in California. That they these people, and it's like to say, you're responsible for who you elect.
Yeah.
As
Obama said, elections have consequences. He's right. And
Hegseth did fantastic today, by the way. But once again, to circle back to this FDA, this goes back even further to when the FDA, because I made these calls personally. I called the Florida Department of Health, and they explained to me what was going on. I called on behalf of other people's children that all of a sudden could not get the Regeneron or the monoclonal, which was approved by the government. But all of a sudden, it wasn't available. So I called the Florida Department of Health, and they said, well, every few weeks, they get a supply sent, and they always run out early. And then this time, they just stopped getting it. And who is stopping it? The FDA. The FDA kept squeezing the supply of the Florida Department of Health for Regeneron, which was approved by the government. Look, it was on live television when Biden said to Governor DeSantis that he was going to cut our Regeneron supply in half to make us all get the vaccinations. He said it right live on TV. He's going to cut it in half. And that's when DeSantis decided to do an end around and get the Regeneron anyway by other means. So this FDA, these mass murderers, and I'm accusing them of mass murder of American citizens, intentionally choked off the supply of Regeneron to American citizens in Florida. That was way before the events that I'm talking about even now. I took my eye off the ball. I didn't realize that they still hadn't approved. And I suppose the reason they haven't approved it for COVID use yet is because they don't want to have their pants down. They don't want to show their bare ass, their pimply, boiled bare asses for who they are. And it works. And rather than do that, they're perfectly happy with just having more people die. I can't hear you.
Go, IQ.
All anger is wasted. Because nobody has been held responsible for anything in the last 12 years. Nothing. Not Obama, not Pelosi, not Biden, nobody. And they are all guilty of mass murder, not only the FDA.
Yeah.
Each and every single one of them is guilty of mass murder.
Well, in another week, IQ, and I suspect, I don't think that RFK, see Jeff Hayes, who I mentioned before, he did the movie The Real RFK Jr. and The Real Anthony Fauci, and he was all over this with the ivermectin. Now, I just want to say out front, Jeff Hayes did not accuse the FDA of murdering anybody. What he did say was that here's one, and here's one, and it's up to you to add them up, and it's up to you to have the answer. And of course, the answer is 2. But Jeff Hayes never came out and said, oh, yes, they intentionally prevented ivermectin from being on the market because it would have cost Big Pharma hundreds of billions of dollars for their vaccine. He did not come out and make that accusation. What he did come out and said, well, here's this and here's that. It's up to you to decide. Well, clearly, I don't have as much to lose as Jeff Hayes. And it's very clear, it's very easy to add up 1 and 1. The FDA can only issue an EUA when there are no adequate and approved options. Now, the approved options, they'll say, well, but the tests, they didn't do well in the tests. And I asked Jeff Hayes about that. And RFK is going to come out, and I hope he's going to carve them a new one. I really do. He says, yes, there were no approved, the tests didn't come out well. That's because they were running the tests. They fudged all of the tests. The tests were a fraud.
Like everything under Biden. And I mean everything. Everything. The election 2020 was a fraud. Everything Biden has done, everything the Democrats have done in the last, under Biden and under Obama, has been a fraud. Everything was against the American people. And unfortunately, 38 to 40% of the American people are brain dead. They keep electing the same garbage.
And that's why I guess Biden feels he can come out and say, hey, we're much better off now than we were 4 years ago. He actually has the nerve, the balls, the capacity to come out and say the country is better off now than 4 years ago, that we're stronger, our allies are stronger, our enemies are weaker. And it's pretty hysterical in a very bad way that he's capable of coming out and saying that and well, basically getting away with it.
Of course, because nobody impeached him. He should have been impeached for treason as commander-in-chief and not securing the border. I said it a million times on this show, and in many cases, Dan always opposed me on constitutional grounds. I don't believe the Constitution allows the commander-in-chief to be a traitor and get away with it.
I agree with you 100%, IQ. And the fact that we let them get away with it is why they kept doing it. And you can go back and back and back. You can go back to Hillary and the 33,000 emails that were subpoenaed that she destroyed and bleach-bitted, and the 8 cell phones that they destroyed with hammers. When we let her get away with that, so they just kept doing it. They kept and kept and kept.
It's like a murderer and a thief. If you don't put them in prison, they will continue murdering and thieving. There's nothing to do about it.
And they are.
They are, yeah. We have 6 more days. I can't wait.
I can't. Well, a lot of people can't wait, and I just really hope that RFK Jr. peels back this whole ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, because Trump was right. Trump always ended up right. He was right all along. Some of you may fear it. Some of you don't want to hear it, but Trump was right. He was right all along. And I hope that RFK comes out and strips them naked and shows them no mercy with the truth about Fauci and about what has gone on here. So it's so outrageous that, look, I had the money to do an end around and get this ivermectin from out of town. I don't know that I could have gotten it from my local doctor or not, because the amount that I would have prescribed clearly would not have matched up with if I was getting a dewormer. Okay, this is a much larger script. So I didn't have time to mess around with it. I was sick. I was out of my mind as it was. So I had to spend several $100s to go do it. And I'd just like to tell everybody, if they're interested in getting ivermectin, there are many different sources, but this particular doctor is Dr. Syed Haider, SYEDHAIDER, and if I can find it on my phone, I'll give you the number, but...
Sounds Arabic.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is, but I've worked with him before, and he was very generous on the phone. And to me, he struck me as very trustworthy. I didn't bring up any of my politics. Okay, here's his number: 281 393 8266. I'll give it again. It's go to my doc, GOTO my doc, go to my doc, Dr. Syed Haider, SYED Haider, HAIDER, and the number is 281 393 8266. Now, look, I'm going to admit I'm not always the smartest guy in the world, because the reason I was caught without the ivermectin supply is because I foolishly played the Good Samaritan and gave mine away. And I told you the story, Jiggy. I gave some to this person we know. He never bothered to give any of it back. He went so far as to say, oh, he gave it away. You know, so don't be that stupid.
He gave it away.
I'll find the text. I'll find that last text. He actually had the nerve to throw that in. No, he gave the rest of the bottle away. Because all I would have needed was, you know, a few days supply until I replenished it. And really, I got complacent. I didn't think I would ever catch it because I never caught it all this time. Yeah. And I figured that was that. So I just wasn't anxious to replace it until this incident at the funeral, and then they got tested positive. That, along with me not feeling well, I got a 1-day supply. It knocked it out. 1-day supply. It knocked it out. Boom. Beeper MD came the next day. They gave me a test. The only reason I had them give me a test was so that I could find out if I could go play ball. I didn't want to, be able to go out and spread it to the rest of the team. So although I felt well enough to play, I just wanted to know, am I testing positive, in which case I will stay home for a week or whatever the appropriate time necessary. And so I have every confidence in the drug. And don't take it from Joe Citizen, folks. But if you want to see Jeff Hayes, the interview on JoeCitizenShow.com, but more importantly, Google Dr. Harvey Risch. That's Risch. He's the chief epidemiologist at Yale University. And do the investigation yourself. Jeff Hayes did a great job, and Jeff Hayes had some really choice things to say about Fauci, not just with COVID, but with AIDS also. Basically pulled the same routine, basically put people on a drug that he said Africa refused because it was too dangerous. He put them on that instead of drugs that just would have cost pennies. But I invite you to investigate that for yourselves.
Yeah, Fauci, I'm just amazed that guy is not under a prison cell.
Well, he's going to be under something else if they keep torturing these dogs or other animals. And I had a number that was just off the charts from a Democrat representative. And he said he got the figure. I said the figure, people couldn't believe it, but I'm not pulling it out of my ear. 50 million animals being tested or tortured every year. Now, when we consider the way how this government throws away money, how this government fritters away dollar bills like they're fractions of a penny each, that's what they're doing with the lives of these animals. And you know something? If they don't knock it off sooner than later, as far as I'm concerned, I hope there's going to be teams of vigilantes with battering rams to close down these laboratories and send these sadistic scientists running for the frickin' hills. And if that's illegal, what I'm saying, fine, bring it on. Because somebody has to speak up for the animals. And we can't have these delicate, wonderful creatures that we have. And they're all wonderful, not just the dogs and cats. They're all wonderful. There's nobody to speak up for them suffering. So if it takes me getting a knock on the door, bring it on, you sons of bitches. You're going to keep torture labs open? I say we get some damn battering rams. That's my answer, because we don't have time. The animals don't have the time for all these bullshit artists to sit around and take a year and a day.
Yep.
So they better get on it.
IQ, what do you think about that?
Well, he's defending the animal kingdom. What more can I tell you? And we are animals. You keep forgetting. We are the apex of the animal kingdom only because we have the thinking brain. Otherwise, we're identical to them. We suffer the same. We have the similar sperm. We have similar blood. We have emotional distress. They have emotional distress. Animals have sensibilities equal to those of a human being, but they can't express them the way we can.
Which makes it all that much sadder to think of being tortured and not being able to speak up for yourself. And IQ thought it was a good idea. I'm going to keep spreading the just the term MACA, M-A-C-A, Make America Compassionate to Animals. Joe Kaufman is running for Congress in 2 years, and he's an expert on Islamism, but he also thinks it's a great idea, Make America Compassionate to Animals. And so we've got to get Joe Kaufman in Congress for a number of reasons. But his forte, he's an expert on Islamism. He knows more about terrorists and terrorism than virtually anybody in the country. He was on top of this stuff over 20 years ago. He provided the FBI trees of information of this group and that group and the relationship between them. Joe knows more about this than virtually anybody. But he also is a very compassionate person, and he loves animals, and he is all for making America compassionate to animals. And if animals must be tested, I'm sure that we only need about 0.1% of the animals that they're using. And get your frickin' hands off the rest. Dr. Michael Savage was on TV, and he gave a story about how he was fired because he was either in I don't know if he was in pre-med or whatever it was, but that he had to kill these rats. And he said, this little furry warm thing, he never hurt me. I don't want to kill him. And they said, well, you have to, or you can't work here anymore, or you can't stay with the program. He said, well, I'm not going to do it. So they let him go. He said, but they had a girl who did it, and she liked doing it. She enjoyed doing it. And he said that a lot of them like doing it. And it was his estimation that there are many sadists that are scientists who enjoy doing it. So when I say a battering ram to scare those scientists to the hills, that's exactly what I mean.
Well, as we wrap up here, let's start with IQ Al Rizzoli. IQ, what did you think of today's show, my friend?
Always informative, civil, and to the point. Listen, I mean, I love being with your show.
Yes.
I love being with your guests, especially if they are not leftists.
Especially if they are not leftists.
You can't negotiate with a leftist. You can't have a conversation with a leftist. They're so dumb. I mean, to call them jackasses, they're insult to jackasses.
Well, Roger Homefield, wrap it up here for us, my friend, with everything.
Look, we just can't wait till next week, and I hope that the change starts right away. With the change is going to be immediate, but there are so many things that need to be changed right away, and not everything can be on the top of the list at the same time. But I do hope that this FDA will be included in this swamp, this dirty, deep swamp, along with the FBI and the CIA and the IRS. The FDA needs to be in that same bag of sewage as the rest of them. And they need to be more than just cleaned out. They need to be gutted. They need to be a lot of heads roll. And they need to be, they need to be accountable for the tens and tens of thousands of Americans that died because of their, I won't even call it stupidity. This was premeditated. This was premeditated because the emergency use authorization would not have been granted to Big Pharma for the vaccines if they admitted that ivermectin was a powerful working option, which it always was.
No truer words, my friend. Well, I appreciate it. And Roger, we'll talk to you on Thursday. IQ, we will talk to you on Thursday as well. Thank you, gentlemen. And we will talk to you guys then.
Thanks, Jiggy.
Appreciate it. There they go. That is Roger Homefield and IQ Al-Razzoli today here on our big program. Thanks for joining us here on our big broadcast, and we will talk to you next time. Peace.